Excited to welcome my first guest this morning, Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant. He joins us. He is currently vice chair of the FEMA Review Council. He is working from home some days. He is working from Washington, D.C. some days. He is in his law office some days as well. Good morning, Governor Bryant.
Good morning, Richard. Yeah, I'm in the Allen community today, the place I love the best, down here in Copiah County off Highway 28.
That's a good spot. I know it's a place that you like to be. Are your days a little less busy than they were when you were residing in the governor's mansion?
Absolutely. There's just nothing that can compare to being governor. That's a 24/7. I remember when I was lieutenant governor, Haley Barber was telling me how busy the job was. And I said, Governor, I'm lieutenant governor and I'm teaching school at Mississippi College at a college level. I'm pretty busy. Got 2 children. He said, oh, no, you don't understand. This game's a lot faster. And he was absolutely right. I used to say Eli Manning, they asked Eli when Eli went from the college to the pros, what was the difference? He said the game's so much faster. That was the way it was going from lieutenant governor to governor. So, life is good. I'm back and forth to Washington, D.C. more than I actually want to be. But when this president calls and you feel like, as I do, as someone that loves public service, that it's the right thing for you to do, then you go.
I am curious, watching the Capitol yesterday, was there any part of the legislative process that you missed? I mean, state auditor and then lieutenant governor and then governor. Things went pretty smoothly in the Senate, a little bit different in the House yesterday. Is that a process that you miss?
Not at all. Not at all. I miss the people. I still got a lot of great friends there, but that can be a difficult day for a presiding officer. I presided over the Mississippi Senate for 4 years as lieutenant governor. We had to read some bills, not many. I had a really good working relationship with all. A lot of people don't remember, Richard, when I came in, I think it was 2008 as lieutenant governor, I had a majority of Democrats in the Mississippi Senate. And as a sitting Republican lieutenant governor, that was some challenging, but never anything that we couldn't work through and got a lot done. So I could feel the speaker's frustration. That's just not the way to preside, having to read bills, but I don't miss that at all. And I see much of it now occurring in Congress, in the United States Congress, so not productive for the American people.
I got one more for you. Your new role. There were some Democrats that complained about being kind of shut out of the budget process. Republican supermajority in both the House and the Senate. Is that a reasonable complaint from Democrats that, like, hey, we know that you're going to pass the budget bill, but we would like to at least have a seat at the table? Is that reasonable, or is that just politics?
It's politics. They have members on the Appropriations Committee, Democratic members on the Appropriations Committee. When those committees meet, when they review the bill, they have the opportunity in committee to ask those questions. That's when all of the sorting out begins in those subcommittees and in committees and appropriations. So by the time they get to the floor, the bill has been presented in committee. They've had an opportunity to ask any questions, make amendments. You can offer amendments in subcommittees and in committees. So this is just a show by the Democratic Party that is in worse condition in Mississippi than it is on a national level, if that's possible. So, look, we always wanted to be transparent. When I was governor and presiding officer, nothing to hide there. The budget is what the budget is. They always want more. They just want you to put more money in, more for these projects, more to grow government. The typical ask, unfortunately, of the Democratic Party is for more taxpayers' money. Our job is to spend only that is necessary to affect the function of government. That's what Republicans want to do. I don't miss that process at all. Got a lot of good friends on both sides of that. If the Democratic Party believes that was the only way they could gain relevancy, then I don't hold that against them. We've got the reading machine, the chipmunk there, and let her roll.
There's been some frustration from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle that maybe they didn't get the budget bill as soon as they would have liked to be able to really read it and go through it, and people have voiced concern about that. Is that uncommon? Is that something that is should be happening where it's available to legislators sooner, or is that simply kind of how the process works?
Well, if I remember this correctly, Richard, and I'm not watching it as close as I once was, but all of this has been debated before. If you remember, the House and the Senate had long hours of debate over the budget. There were meetings on both ends of the hall, as we would say. So this entire budget process has been discussed for the past 30 or 45 days in detail. Now, I don't know who was in the rooms, but there's no surprise that you're going to have a budget. There's no surprise in categories of what that budget might look like. Again, you can position yourself to gain attention, or you can try to work within the process. And I would hope that leadership went to the lieutenant governor and speaker's office and said, we'd like to know more. We'd like to get involved. That is the way I tried to work when I was lieutenant governor. We had nothing to hide. Obviously, the budget is the taxpayers' dollars, and it's going to be made public. But this debate's been going on for months and months now over the budget. And so now, all of a sudden, no one's heard about it. I don't want to get interjected in the details of it, but I cannot help but believe that the speaker and the lieutenant governor have open doors to their membership who want to come and ask questions.
Visiting with former former Lieutenant Governor and Governor Phil Bryant. He is now Vice Chair of the FEMA Review Council. Since Donald Trump was appointed president, he has said that FEMA needs to operate more efficiently. It needs to be more effective for Americans who are affected by disasters. Certainly we can talk about some of the specific issues, but this FEMA council that you were appointed to and then made vice chair of, what is the charge that has been given to you and to your colleagues on the council from the president?
Let me read it directly. So this is from the presidential action, the executive order, January 24, 2025, the federal response to Hurricane Helene. And if you remember, the president was there on the ground in North Carolina. He was greatly disappointed about what he saw, and that was the spark, I think, that lit the fire in him to do something about what he thought was the ineffectiveness of FEMA. The EO says the federal response to Hurricane Helene and other recent disasters demonstrate the need to drastically improve the Federal Emergency Management Agency's efficacy, priorities, and competency. That's it, including evaluating whether FEMA's bureaucracy in disaster responses ultimately harm the agency's ability to successfully respond. That is what he wants. He wants us to look into not only FEMA today, but where FEMA came from. Very interesting history created by an executive order by Jimmy Carter. But how has it evolved? And is the bureaucracy, which now out of the 18,000 employees, is a large percent, great percent of that is bureaucracy. And he wants us to find out, is that bureaucracy hindering what he sees as the less than stellar response in recent storms? So how can we improve FEMA? How can we make the efficacy a priority within the federal government? How can we go to states and serve them at the time of their need, when their people are having their worst day? And how can we do that more efficiently, more effectively, and honestly, at a less cost when you parse down the bureaucracy involved in this entire process? So that began January 24th and continues.
We're going to talk more about this with Governor Phil Bryant in just a couple of minutes. You and I spoke briefly yesterday afternoon, and I was struck by the number of employees that work for 18,000 employees with the Federal Emergency Management Association, or agency rather, not association. We'll talk more about that when we come back. Governor Phil Bryant is my guest. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Governor Bryant's too nice to say anything. I will tell you we are aware that there have been connection issues. My apologies for that. Trying to do the best that we can. But we continue our conversation with Governor Phil Bryant, who has recently been appointed vice chair of the FEMA Review Council. I don't know that Google, Governor Bryant, is always the most accurate, but I just did a quick search at the average employee salary is at FEMA. It's about $63,000. That's kind of, a range from 13 to well up over 100 average salary. And at 18,000 employees, that's $1.1 billion. Do we need that many people working at FEMA?
Absolutely not. And here's even the more disturbing part of that, Richard. In the last 4 years, FEMA headquarters, located in the district in downtown Washington, D.C., has tripled in its size, over 300% growth in the administrative offices of downtown Washington, D.C., FEMA. And so those 18,000 employees, so many of them are in the nation's capital. Now, last time I checked, there hadn't been a hurricane in the nation's capital, I think, since Andy Jackson was maybe president. So we don't need, obviously, all of those individuals there huddled together, making those salaries in Washington, D.C. So there's a decentralization. What if we took some of those? There's 10 different regions in FEMA, and either we downsize that agency, and we've been talking with Doge. I had a long conversation, actually a Zoom meeting yesterday with the acting director of FEMA, David Richardson, who is a lieutenant colonel, retired lieutenant colonel from the Marines. Now, let me tell you, Colonel Richardson is charging this hill. He is going to get it done. He's working just now every day, and I think we'll see in the next few days a public display of the hurricane plan, which has been in effect, been working with FEMA and the states for the hurricane season plan for some time now, and you'll see the details of that. But at the same time, he's working with the council to see how effective those 18,000 employees, a large majority of which are located in a building in downtown Washington, D.C., a large majority of which were hired in the last 3 years to work on things, for example, like the new shelter and service program. Now, you heard the discussion as to whether or not FEMA invested the taxpayers' money in housing illegal immigrants. Oh, no, the Democrats will say that never happened. Yes, it did. Now, what they did when they were in control of Congress, they cut out a $800 million to $1 billion, depending on the numbers that you look like. Let's just use $800 million and put it in a fund called the Shelter and Service Program. And then they spent it on housing illegal immigrants. It's still part of FEMA. Their argument is, it's not part of the disaster recovery funding. You just put it in a different bucket. You pour money into it, and then you go house illegal immigrants, perhaps in the Roosevelt Hotel in downtown New York. These are the things that the president and now the acting director, and by the way, Secretary Kristi Noem, who is my chairman, are disturbed about. Could that money have been spent better actually serving people whose homes have been destroyed, whose lives have been totally upended, and are expecting their government to work in unison with the state government and doing a better job of serving their needs? If I could, Richard, let me just talk for a moment about the membership of this council. Again, the president created the council in January of this year, and he put in charge Secretary Kristi Noem. I spoke with her again yesterday. I've known Secretary Noem when she was governor of South Dakota. We worked together there in the Republican Governors Association, and I helped along the way as I could as she was becoming a young governor and helping mentor her along the way. So she is helping lead this effort and direct co-chair of the council along with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. A lot of people may not, some of us remember when all of this began as the civil defense back in the 1950s. And what civil defense was about was, what if we have a thermonuclear device that it goes off in the United States? What if the Russians attack? This was the Cold War strategy of, we need someone that then help organize a response to that. How do we get you to the shelters? In my days, we would duck and cover under the desk. So, like that was going to protect you from a thermonuclear device. But that is a reason that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is certainly part of this. There is unfortunately a reality that we have to face, and if something of a military event does occur, is how does FEMA respond to that? So Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Noem, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, they do a remarkable job. Texas and Florida are the two high water marks for emergency response. Right after that is the state of Mississippi, because we had to learn how to respond to emergencies. So Jane Castor, the mayor of the city of Tampa, all of this goes to the locals. The first 72 hours will be their responsibility. They're at the point of the spear. They're her police, her fire department, sheriff's department. So we've got the sheriff of Miami-Dade, Florida, Rosie Cordero Stutz. I met Sheriff Stutz at our first meeting in Washington. What an amazing lady. If you can imagine her being a lifelong law enforcement officer, now sheriff of Miami-Dade County. Kevin Guthrie, who's the executive director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. Kevin is probably as knowledgeable about state responses to as anyone in the United States. Neil Kidd, who's the chief of Texas Division of Emergency Management. So those two, Texas and Florida, as you see, both their the governor of Texas and his emergency responder in Florida, Michael Watley, chairman of the Republican National Committee. The president trusts Michael and his knowledge. He's from North Carolina. He has served there and helping respond to that. Glenn Youngkin, Governor Youngkin of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Again, people sometimes forget that Washington, D.C. sits right in the state of Virginia. He is one of the brightest stars, I think, of all the governors across the United States. Glenn Youngkin has been a wonderful addition to this council. And Robert Fenton. Bob is Region 9 Administrator and two-time Acting Director of FEMA. He has that institutional knowledge that we need of the day-to-day operations. Bob came to Mississippi during Katrina. He and I first met there, and he is the core, the heartbeat of FEMA as we know it in the regions. Someone who is boots on the ground. So that's the council. Again, I'm very proud to be a part of that.
And serving as vice chair of the FEMA Review Council, visiting with former Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant. I think one of the most disturbing stories that we got last fall was in the aftermath of the hurricanes in Florida and North Carolina. We got the reports that some of the aid that was being distributed was being politicized. That there were houses where there were Trump signs in the front yard, and FEMA administrators who were acting locally were skipping over those houses and not allowing aid to go to them. I don't think it's a crazy statement to say that FEMA should be an apolitical organization. It should be about getting disaster relief to those who need it. I understand that everything we do is politicized, and you either have a Republican administration or a Democrat administration, and the people that are put in charge are going to probably fall under that political persuasion. How do we eliminate that and make sure it never happens again, where that disaster relief goes to the people that need it, regardless of who you vote for or who you support?
I think you're going to have to hold people accountable. As you saw when the president came in office and Elon Musk came in with Doge, not only we started looking at how much money was spent, but how it was spent. And it was shocking again, illegal immigration, chasing climate change. This is the political philosophy that came into FEMA. Everything was a political dynamic. How do we help Democrats serve? How do we add more of our voters to the employee roles within FEMA? You're absolutely right. If there's anything, it should be non-political, not bipartisan, non-political, it's FEMA. And that's part of the job that we have as a council to root that out and remove it.
I know there's a lot of work to be done in the coming days, weeks, and months. Governor Phil Bryant, I appreciate your time. Wish you the best in this role as Vice Chair with FEMA Review Council. Always great to catch up with you. And thanks for your patience this morning with some technical issues.
Thank you, Richard. We'll talk again.
Look forward to that. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi. We're back right after this.